Kia Hyundai channel, welcome to our live video series. Today we have the Ioniq 5 back here again. We have a different one than we've had in the past, and we have the opportunity to spend some time with it. So I wasn't really prepared to get this vehicle today, but that's a good thing we did. So what we're gonna do is talk today about what it's like owning an electric vehicle in the winter, things to be aware of, settings that you can change that make a difference, and we're gonna go through as best I can sort of a bit of a tutorial of how these things work in the winter, things that you're gonna wanna know, things that you may or may not wanna do, and we'll go through the pros and cons of each, and I'll do my best to answer your questions as they come through. And I just wanna be clear that I still have not spent as much time with this vehicle as I would like to, and that's probably a lot more time than the average car reviewer. So I like to spend a whole lot of time really digging into the fine details. So if you ask a question and I don't know what it is, the good news is this is still the channel for you, because we will have this vehicle back here again and I will continue to answer your questions. We'll continue to do more videos on this vehicle. So if you like this car, hit the subscribe button, because we'll have a whole bunch more videos for you, and the Kia EV6, which is coming up based on the same platform, and that's what's going on. So if you're not live with us 2 o'clock on a weekday afternoon and you're watching this in a replay, if you want to just skip ahead to the content, feel free to do that at the 3-minute mark. If you want to know how to join us live, I'm going to show you how to do that right now, and we'll talk about some news and some notes as well. All right, so flipping around here, to join us live, you go to our YouTube page, which is right there, looks like that, and if we refresh the page at exactly 2 o'clock Eastern time, pretty good about hitting the time lately, you will see that that live video takes over the main page. We're going to click into that. You're going to have to watch a quick little ad. As we watch the ad for a competitive dealer, we're going to skip that ad. Actually, I should let it run and then they'll have to pay us, I think. I think that's how it works. Anyways, we're skipping that ad. There are 3 dealers that support this channel: Brantford Hyundai, Owen Sound Hyundai, and Brantford Kia, where we're filming right now. So if you are interested in getting a car anywhere in Ontario, and I really mean that, anywhere in Ontario, we can help you out. There'll be a link in this description, the description of this video. As soon as I'm done, you can click that, or you can go to any of our other live videos and click that link if you want to go there right away, and you can reach out to us and you will go there. Someone just asked, is this car sold out in Canada? And I missed the rest of your question. Short answer is, it is possible that by the end of January, you will not be able to get a 2022 anymore. You'll be ordering 2023s at that point. And that's just because the allotment for the year may be sold out in Canada. So you'll be moving on to a 2023 model year. And that's not uncommon when you have the wait times that we have with the desirability of this vehicle. So that's a good question. All right, what's going on in news and notes? Yesterday we did a little video in the snow. Hard to film, not the best filming, but I think generally it was well received as far as content. So if you want to know about PHEV, plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, happened to be a Sorento. If you want to know about that in the snow, we did that video yesterday. I think it's got some good information. And do me a favor, if you're a regular with us, hit the like button right now. And I really mean that if you're a regular. If you're not a regular, we'll try to earn your like throughout the whole thing. We're past the 3-minute mark, so let's keep going. All right. This is the Ioniq 5. It is not perfectly clean, and the common thing that we have a little fun with here is it is supposed to have a rear wiper, according to many of you. I agree. So we're all on the same page. We don't talk about that anymore. Moving on, there's another thing that I don't like about this in the winter, but let's talk about what this car does and does not do in the winter. So first of all, this is the preferred long-range all-wheel drive. It's rated for 488 kilometers of range, and you're not going to get that in the winter. The first compromise you're going to make, the way Kia and Hyundai vehicles traditionally have done their range calculations, and just so you guys know, I've driven an EV for the past since 2019, so a couple years now. It's almost, well, we are 2022, so 2.5 years, 2 and a bit. And the thing with the owning an electric vehicle is the Kia and Hyundai vehicles, the rated range and the real world range are actually quite different. And in Kia and Hyundai's case, unlike Tesla, usually you can exceed that range without a whole lot of issues. So again, 488 kilometers of range here. And this is the important part. What I like to say is 3 seasons of the year, you should see more range than that, depending on your driving, depending on all kinds of things. But usually, and for instance, my car, I have the shortest possible range Kia Soul EV you can get. It's rated for 248 kilometers. I get above 300 in the summer, usually 312, 307. I've seen a 320, I think, one time. But yeah, so 300-ish range. And in the winter, I stay right around the 200 mark when it is powered full. So this one has 488 kilometers. I've seen it over 500. I've also seen it in the 380s and that kind of thing, at the worst possible thing. And the other quick thing to remember is ignore a little bit some of the mileage on this car, because dealership cars tend to be idled a lot, and that matters even in an electric car. They also tend to be driven sometimes a little bit more less efficiently than you would in a normal drive. So we're going to show you range. We're going to talk about range loss, but really quickly, range loss in the winter is only a concern if you're going to run out of range or if you don't want to charge. So when we talk about range loss, because you're getting into so much miles, there's a lot less range anxiety. Like my commute to work is like 6 kilometers. So, you know, was that 4 miles, 3 miles? It's going to be, if you have a car like this and you have a long commute, even if you're doing 150 kilometers one way, 150 kilometers the other way, you're probably still going to have plenty of range to use this car, charge up at night, even in the winter without any issues at all, and never have to stop to charge. The other thing to keep in mind as well is there's various levels of fast charging with this car. Even if you don't hit the very fastest fast charger, which can charge this car to 80% in about 18 minutes, which will probably be a hair slower in the winter as well. But even if you don't hit the fastest of fast chargers, let's say you just hit a traditional level 3 charger and you want to charge this car, a lot of time what I do is, or what I have done in the past is, you only have to stop at that level 3 charger for 10 minutes or something. You don't have to go to 80% before you can leave. You just need another 30, 40, 50 kilometers of range. And again, you can get that in 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is, 5 minutes, those kinds of things. So just keep in mind that you can still do regular fuel stops with this car if you hit a fast charger, which are all over the place, and you can take advantage of that. And again, you're leaving your garage. So one huge advantage of an EV in the winter is you wear comfortable, lighter weight clothing. This is not a thick winter jacket. You can wear that in your car. And when you refuel, you just click it in and go inside your house and you're done. You don't have to stand outside in the cold, in the wind, in the snow, in the rain, and get wet and cold. So that is a big advantage there. So what we're gonna do in this video is talk really specifically about specific things that make this car good in the winter and less good in the winter. So we talked about the range loss in the cold weather. Charging can also be a little bit slower in the cold weather, but you're still gonna be able to get a full charge in this vehicle overnight on a level 2 charger without any issues at all. So charging speeds aren't a huge issue if you don't need to do road trips. And if you do need to do road trips, like I said, it's still the fastest charging EV in the price class. Actually, I think it's one of the fastest charging EVs you can currently buy. So that is something that is available to you. Now, the other thing you're gonna have to keep in mind is tires. I recommend winter tires regardless of what kind of vehicle you have if you're driving in winter weather. Now, you may decide that you don't want to do that, and that's fine. If you put winter tires on here, just get whatever's going to give you grip. That's my recommendation, because even if they take a little bit of extra range, yes, that will cost you a little bit of extra electricity. It's still a pretty good value. But I think what you're going to find is trying to get something really eco-friendly may sacrifice traction. If you put winter tires on the car, the reason you're doing it is because you want great traction in the winter. And yes, they'll take away some range, but I don't think it's enough to counteract the benefit of just the safety of steering, braking, and turning. Now, this one is rear-wheel drive. You can get all-wheel drive, and for a lot of people, I think there's a real big concern about people going from maybe what was an all-wheel drive vehicle or a front-wheel drive vehicle to a rear-wheel drive vehicle. And I have not driven this extensively in the snow, but you know, about an hour or two ago, everything here was all white, slippery, just sort of more like that section, the hole there. And I can tell you right now that the overall traction of this vehicle is perfectly good if you are comfortable winter driving. If you're uncomfortable winter driving, get the all-wheel drive vehicle. If you're comfortable winter driving, we're going to talk about the traction control electric vehicles in 1 second. You guys have asked me a couple times what the color of this car is, and I've avoided your question because I honestly don't remember the exact name of the color. So I'm going to quickly zip down here. It is Lucid Blue, which is funny because Lucid is the name of a, electric car maker. So Lucid Blue, I'm pretty sure, because yeah, everything else that's a green, yep. So that it would be, I'm pretty sure, Lucid Blue, and I do quite like it. All right, let's talk EV traction in the winter and why an EV is actually better than a gas car, and then we're gonna go inside and start showing you details of what you can do in the winter. So, how long is the wait to get a vehicle? It's gonna be a little while. Best thing to do is connect with us and we'll talk to you about how long it's gonna be. I don't have every vehicle memorized anymore because it can literally change almost daily per individual vehicles, and it's just too hard for me to keep up. All right. Traction control in a rear-wheel drive car. You only have to get that squirrely feeling if you lose traction, right? So this one, in an EV, you have a lot of benefits. A gasoline engine revs up and comes back down when you shift gears. Revs up, comes back down when you shift gears. What that means is your power is constantly changing towards the wheel and the transmission is catching it and adjusting it. With an EV, as you give it more acceleration, like as you hit the accelerator pedal, the vehicle speeds up and can slow down. And there's no kind of jerkiness to the power going to the wheel. And you don't always feel that jerkiness in a gasoline car, but if you take it off the ground and rev those wheels, there's some jerkiness, there's some driveline momentum. On an EV, you get really precise control of the power to the rear wheels, and you can cut power and put power back in instantly. So the traction control on an electric vehicle is better, and the overall traction, because of the smoothness of the power application, the overall traction is much better in an electric vehicle than in a gas vehicle. And like I said, if you're trying to debate, should I wait for an all-wheel drive or get a rear-wheel drive, which is more readily available, if you're comfortable in the snow and you don't need like a ton of ground clearance, like if you're looking at this vehicle anyways, right? If you're not comparing it to something that's, you know, a real snow monster kind of car, I think you may be perfectly happy with a rear-wheel drive. And again, the benefit with our rear-wheel drive is you get a little bit more range potential in our long-range rear-wheel drive. So keep that in mind. We can talk about that a little further. Let's jump inside the vehicle, and I'm gonna get the key. All right, in the winter, an EV is better for a whole bunch of reasons. Here's your key, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna remote start the car, which is kind of weird to do, but we are indoors. Lock the car, hold this down, and the lights will blink in a second. There we go. Guess what? I just remote started the car inside. The reason I like driving an EV, and again, those of you who follow this channel, you know that I drive a Hyundai Santa Cruz. Yesterday we had well over a foot of snow, and the Santa Cruz was amazing in the deep snow. I still prefer using my Kia Soul EV in the winter if I don't need that traction, and that's because of a lot of things. Electric vehicles, the heat turns on right away. You don't have to wait for the engine to warm up and then throw up the heater core and then throw it out to the passengers. The heat works right away. So when I remote start this car, you're right away getting heat brought into it. And a lot of people are under the assumption that you could only remote start it or you could only preheat the cabin if the vehicle was in the, or plugged in. This vehicle is not plugged in, and it is currently pre-warming, pre-cooling, pre-everything, right? Whatever you want it to do. It's got automatic climate control, so it's probably set to something like 22 degrees, and it's currently doing that through the key fob. Now, I also have a cell phone app, which is Hyundai's Blue Link, and that can also remote start the car. And then you can get into customizing things like turning on the heated seats, the heated steering wheel, changing the temperature, that kind of thing. So you can really kind of set it up the way you want with Blue Link. And again, then you can be out of range of where your key is, and it doesn't matter if your vehicle's inside or outside, it can idle and be ready to go. So that's a huge advantage. Now, as I approach the vehicle, let's see if it's remote start. Just approaching the vehicle, I didn't hit any buttons. We have it set up to pop those door handles out, and we'll hop inside. I happen to like cloth seats. Cloth seats are better for warming up in the winter. This one has that, so to me, that's a plus. All right, jumping in here, you can see one screen is on, one screen is not. As soon as I shut the door, both screens come on because the key is in the vehicle. We're just gonna put it in the cup holder now. It's actually too warm in here right now. It's blowing a lot of hot air, but we're gonna start playing around with this car. And let's just turn the climate system off for a second. This car does not have a full battery of charge. It is, what is that, 34% right now. And you guys are gonna start doing math. You can see the range is 123 kilometers. You can also see the range is 123 kilometers up there. And just like a fuel door on your car, if you have a little fuel gauge in your car, there'll be a fuel icon like that, only instead of, it'll be a fuel, like gasoline icon, and then it'll have the little arrow telling you which side the gas door is on. That little arrow there tells you which side the electric door is on, which is on the passenger side of this car. So we got 123 kilometers here. We're gonna turn on the climate system here. Actually, we're just gonna go to the climate system here. So as we go on, so remember, 1, 2, 3, that's our kilometer rating. What we're gonna do is we're gonna crank the heat up to the maximum possible thing. Now I can do it on the screen here, I can do it on the dash here as well, but I'm just trying to use this as a visual. So we've got it up to the highest possible. Sometimes you can go high. Nope, just 27 is the highest possible heat. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn the fan on too, because I like to turn the fan up. Now, I should just show you really quickly. If I have it on auto, it has nothing there. If I turn the fan speed up, whoops, there we go. So fan speed down and fan speed up, you add that extra digit there. So now we've got fan speed going maximum. We're trying to get as much heat as we can, and we've lost 128 kilometers of range. We lost 28 kilometers of range. That is a real key piece here, too. If I turn it off, watch the range there. Oops. Let's go to auto and off. Oh boy, there we go. All right, so there we go. If we turn the climate off, we get all of our range back. So one thing to keep in mind when you lose your range in the winter is your climate system is very closely tied to your EV's range number. If you can set your climate range, climate temperature, let's say you normally have it at 22 degrees Celsius. Well, if you bring it to 20 or 19, you're going to extend your range just a little bit. Now, if you're running that tight, you should probably just turn the climate off and just use your seat heaters, or just use a very minimal climate and use the seat heaters. But when you crank it up, you're going to see, 95 kilometers of range. Well, keep in mind, it's only got 95 kilometers in this case when I've got the temperature cranked and the fans cranking. So what I want you to do in an EV, especially in the winter, is I want you to use this auto setting here. So when you have the auto setting, and you can set it down to just stay a little less fan speed there, but I want you to use the auto setting, and I want you to set it to a reasonable temperature, because what that will do is it will run the fans to get to 21 degrees Celsius, and then it'll turn the fans down once it reaches 21 degrees Celsius. Turning those fans down will restore your range. So if you think about what I was doing, if I've manually overridden the climate system, I'm always going to be drawing a ton of heat, and I'm always going to be drawing a ton of fan. But if you let it in the auto setting, your range will go down as the climate system is running, and then it will restore itself a little bit as it sort of levels out and the climate system comes back. So that's a really important thing to keep in mind with range in the winter. Use this auto setting here in any of those 3 dots there, because that's what you should do. Now, one thing I don't like, let's just cover it out of the way. You have to, let's just put it on a home screen or something like that. If I'm on, let's say I'm looking at my map or something like that, and if I'm up here on the map and I got the radio up there, if I want to touch my seat heaters, there's a number of ways to do it, but somebody thought I didn't realize this, so I just want to make sure it's clear. That is how you can turn your seat heaters on. You can play with that screen there, steering wheel heater there as well. And then you can touch, you can touch that warmer button again there, and it disappears and goes back to the screen it was on. In another video, I thought I used the screen because that's another option, and people thought that that was the only way to do it. So I just want to clarify, yes, you can use this warmer button. Either way, it's not a great thing. Does the heat use an element? Yes, it's electric heat. It can also recapture heat through a heat pump situation. It can recapture regenerative braking heat. But essentially, you're drawing the heat from your electric vehicle, which means instant heat, way better in the winter, but it does mean you will use some range. Now, keep in mind, if you don't need all of the range, electric vehicles are going to be better for you in the winter. Let's play with a couple settings here. I'm going to just turn this climate system off fully because I am quite warm in here, and I want to go back to the home screen. We're going to go over to let's just show you the EV range in the winter. So again, this car's rated for 488 kilometers. It's a colder day today. If it was fully charged, it would be at 392. So you've lost almost 100 kilometers of range. 400 kilometers is pretty good in the winter. Now, some people will say, oh, but you won't be able to get that in the winter. And, you know, it depends on the way you drive, depends on your heat use, that kind of thing. I've found that I can squeak out whatever it says here without a whole lot of difficulty. But again, running a ton of heat in the winter, it may drop a little bit more from there. So you just keep in mind, that number I've seen over 500. I've seen it now under 400. That's sort of the way things work with this car as far as range. Now let's go back over and show you a couple little features here. We're going to go in the setup. Just a couple other little features that you might want to keep in mind if you're not plugged in. And if we go to the vehicle over here, and we're going to go into the drive mode area. So the drive mode, speaking of climate system, in the drive mode section, there's a climate control eco mode. On an electric vehicle, this climate control in the eco mode matters more. And I like the way they do the system here. So climate eco, you can sort of see that it's pushing air through 3 little ducts there from the battery. So in other words, you're drawing 3 ducts from the battery is the image there. As I hit the checkbox here, which I'm going to do in a second, watch what happens. It cuts it off to just 1. So the idea being, hey, if you set it to eco mode, it's not going to take as much power off the battery. Most of us in most climates leave our EVs in the climate system on the eco mode because it's perfectly fine for, like I said, I'm hot in this car right now, but it's perfectly fine to give us the range we need and also give us the heat and the cooling that we need. In an intense heat wave or an intense cold, you may want to turn that off with the recognition that you're going to use some more battery. But if you default this to the eco climate control, you'll get used to it. You'll just kind of not even think about it, and you'll have that there. Eco vehicle, there's a number of different things in here. Smart regeneration, all those different regenerations, you may want to play with that just to get a little bit more regeneration in the winter. I mean, I just do a lot of regeneration all the time, the way I have it set, but it depends on how you want to drive. There's a couple other things in the climate setting here. Whoops, let's go back to the climate down here. And let's go to climate features for a second. You have a great feature in here, so that air conditioning, which can run in the winter, after the vehicle is turned off, the fan will run automatically to dry the inside of the air conditioner to prevent mold growth. Fantastic. However, anytime you're running any electrical thing, when the vehicle's not running, it's going to use a little bit of electricity. So sometimes you'll hear the vehicle making some noises afterwards. There are a number of settings where you can turn some of those electronic draws off, and that will save you some stuff as well. Overall, recirculating the air, you can do all kinds of things here. Automatic ventilation, I think this is all, yep, just normal stuff. Defrost, defog options are in here as well. So again, all this is normal type stuff. All right, we're already 20 minutes in. We are way low on likes, which means I've bored the tears out of all of you. So do me a favor, we got about 150 people on. There's no reason we shouldn't be able to get to 120 likes, but let's just set it for 100. I'll take your, if you want to hit your likes right now, I'm going to jump out, take your questions right now. Then we'll come back and talk about a few more things just to be aware of in the winter with these cars, because there are some things with whether electric or not that you should pay attention to, and we'll try to go through and give you the best thing we can. The summary so far is, I believe, because I've owned an EV for a couple years, that most EV buyers I talk to prefer their EVs in the winter over their gas cars. The biggest drawback is if you need a ton of range, you're going to lose some, and charging is an issue. It's not an issue for most people, but it's something to be aware of. If you don't need the range, it's usually better. And the other thing is the class of vehicle. This is a rear-wheel drive vehicle. Yesterday in my neighborhood, two-wheel drive vehicle without snow tires was not making it out. So I had to go all-wheel drive with my snow tires. I was able to get out, but you know, it just depends on the snowstorm. And again, that's a once-a-year thing for us here. All right, somebody asked if there's a tungsten element in the windshield. There is not on this car. That is in some of our Kia vehicles in particular. I don't know if many Hyundai vehicles have that. Does the range drop if you use the heated seats and the heated steering wheel? Not noticeably. I'm sure there is a draw off of that on the battery, but your range number and your windshield doesn't drop. So what I do is turn my climate, when I'm short on range, or if I really have to watch range, which again, you're dealing with 400 kilometers in this car in the winter, right? Like, it's a lot of range. But if you need to, you can drop the temperature, drop the climate control a little bit. That'll save you some range, keep the fan speeds down, and then crank your seat heater a little bit. That seems to be a better use of power. Any system will use electricity, so yes. Oh, okay, yeah, so no, even though it uses electricity, your fan speed is going to directly affect your range number. Your seat heaters and seat steering wheel, essentially not much. I'm sure there's some draw, obviously, there we go. We'll be ordering an EV6 in San Antonio, Texas. The dealership has no information. Welcome to our world. We're still waiting on EV information, EV6 information here in Canada as well. This is the channel to watch, guys. As soon as we have it, it'll be out. We'll have it up live. We'll do stuff for that vehicle we're going through. Okay. On icy roads, you need to be aware of your regenerative braking settings. Yes. Yes. So basically, regenerative braking is the braking that happens not from the in-wheel brakes like your gasoline car. When you let off the throttle or let off, people want me to say accelerator pedal, when you let off of that, this wheel will brake. And that is something to be aware. Now, again, if it's an all-wheel drive car, all the wheels will brake. If it's a rear-wheel drive car, just the rear-wheel drive vehicle will brake. In theory, if you do too much regenerative braking, like I've tried it in my front-wheel drive Kia Soul, the ABS doesn't quite kick on, but the stability control. So in theory, if you get really squirrely, the ABS and the brakes can kick on, but you do have this one dragging you when you have regenerative braking. So the benefit of a rear-wheel drive car with the regenerative braking is if it ever did slide at all, first of all, ABS, traction control, stability control, all those things are in play all the time anyways. But if it ever did drag, it's going to drag you fairly, it's not going to spin you around because your front wheels are coasting and your rear wheels are giving you some braking through regenerative process. So it's not a safety concern. And in fact, I think that's a better thing to have on the rear-wheel drive. I still like using heavy regenerative braking because when you have heavy regenerative braking, the idea is you let off the accelerator pedal and at some point it starts to brake. It's no different than just letting off easy. If I let off like this hard, it's gonna brake more aggressively. But if I just keep that accelerator pedal part way through, it'll coast and I can let off easy and brake. So you don't have to play with your regenerative settings so much for safety. You just have to be proper on the pedals the same way you would in a gasoline car. Does this car come with a panoramic sunroof? The higher trims do. The trim I have today does not. What about lane keep assist and the rest of which the cars? Yeah, so lane keep assist and lane follow assist is another thing to keep in mind. We're going to talk about the safety systems. In fact, let's just do that right now. Lane keeping, so safety systems to be aware of in the winter. That little camera right up there, that little V area there, I don't know if you can see it with the reflection. See that camera in the window there? That is something that you want to clear the ice away. Funny thing with my car is I had a little ice thing drip down and sit right in front of it, and the whole system doesn't work. So you want to just clear that away. Now, it doesn't have to be like super clear. If you can see through the windshield, it can see through the windshield. But like I said, it had a perfectly placed snow ice kind of thing sitting there because I didn't do a great job of clearing the window the way I should have. So you want to make sure when you're clearing your window that that is a spot that you clear. Don't just use your wipers to clear, although the wipers, I believe, do wipe that. Yeah, they do. But you do want to make sure that that camera is clear when you're in the winter, because that is what does a number of things for you. It sees the lane markers for lane keeping assist. It sees cars in front of you, the lane markers as well for lane follow assist, and it can give you some of those safety items. Now, when you have snowy roads where the lanes may be covered by strips of snow, then your lane keeping and lane following assist just will not activate. In other words, the ability for the car to steer itself within the lane, it just won't activate. It says, hey, I don't see the lane marker, so I'm not going to try to guess for you. I suppose if it was a perfectly white straight line, you could trick that system and then you can turn those systems on or off. But I don't recommend using lane follow assist because if it thinks it sees a lane marker, it will have trouble. But basically you won't notice lane keep, lane follow assist in most winter conditions because it just will be gray in the dash as opposed to green in the dash, and it won't self-steer for you. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The other thing to keep in mind is most cars have radar plates, and to be very blunt, I think this one is right in here, but I'm not 100% sure on this car. The radar plate in the front on my Santa Cruz, for instance, is down in this area. When it's down there, if the Santa Cruz, or if the radar plate gets covered in a layer of slushiness, then that radar system doesn't work, and you get the most terrifying warning light in the dash that says, forward collision avoidance system inactive, smart cruise control unavailable. It's a whole bunch of things that come up. And basically what it's saying is, hey, that little radar plate that senses a whole bunch of things, it can't see through that slush reliably, so I'm just going to cancel it all for you. So you do get a warning light in the dash. It will happen when you have really slushy, wet snow coming in, and you're following let's say you're following a transport truck and it's shooting up slushy snow for a while. Once you have that covered, and again, I believe it's right here on this car. Most cars it's lower, so you're in a better position in this car, having it up higher. But if it gets covered, you're going to get a warning light. You don't have to panic. You come out here, you take your little finger on the plate, and you just go wipe, and the whole thing works again. You just turn off the car, turn it on again if it doesn't reset everything. The other thing to keep in mind with this car is you have active grille shutters here. So these little panels here, they open and close. They probably won't open much in the winter, but just keep that in mind that you want to try to keep the snow and ice out of that area. Not a big deal for the winter. Just if there's a deep freeze, it could be something where it closes it and opens up. But to me, because it moves, you just want to keep an eye on it, keep it a little bit clear. So those are just something to keep in mind in the winter. Not a huge deal. LED lights do not create a ton of heat, so they're not going to naturally melt through ice, so you want to make sure you're clearing your headlights in the morning. They're still very bright, but the focus of these lights, that sharp cutoff, is created through a lens on the inside, so don't just let it scatter through the ice and snow. Make sure it's clear there. So a little bit of a safety, just kind of keep in mind. I always walk through when you have a backup camera. It's very, very simple to do. Every now and then when you're walking by your car, just take the backup camera right here. You can see it there. Just wipe your finger on it like that. One quick wipe of that makes the car able to see out the backup camera a little bit better as well. And like we talked about, no rear wiper. It should have one. I agree. It's not the end of the world. It's such a minor thing because the car is very safe anyways. But we talked about it, and I agree with all of you who think it should have one. All right, let's just quickly go back to the questions, make sure there's nothing I missed. We're going to probably keep this one a little shorter today unless you guys have questions that send me on a rant. Feel free to hit the like button. We got over 100, so I appreciate that, guys. But if there's, if you want to know more about this car, just keep giving me likes. Which version of the Ioniq 5 uses the heat pump? That is something I should have memorized before I jumped in. I don't have it memorized. I believe, this is a guess, and you guys I'm sure will crucify me if I'm wrong. I believe only the lowest trim level doesn't have it, but I do have to double check that. I didn't get that memorized just before I jumped on here. I'm sorry about that, guys. And this is part of just me not having spent the time with this vehicle that I'd like to just have all that stuff fresh in my head memorized. Okay, so from the UK, temperatures +6, fast charge from 17 to 80%, took 32 minutes, this fast charge. Okay, so let's just talk about fast charging for a second. In the cold, it is slower. However, some of these videos, and I'm not criticizing the one that you're talking about, some of these videos showing fast charging and slower or faster times, sometimes that's related to the cold, and sometimes it's related to these chargers. Some of them don't always charge up to the speed that they're capable of. So sometimes that 18-minute charge, and this is the issue I'm going to have with Kia and Hyundai on this, that 18-minute charge on these vehicles is if the charger is working up to speed. And what I've found is sometimes, even just on regular charges, you plug your car in and then the guy beside you plugs his car in and both of our speeds drop for charging. So just keep in mind that sometimes the cold weather can absolutely play effect in slowing down the charge. That is a fact. But sometimes it's also related to the charger just being not up. Just because it's a level 3 charger does not mean it's going to charge at fastest possible speed. Level 2 charger is not going to be the fastest level 2 possible. So just those are little things to keep in mind. Busier charge stations tend to be slower. So if you're in a hurry and you see a whole bunch of cars, bank on grabbing some dessert with your sandwich when you stop for lunch. What are the 12-volt battery amps? Oh, I don't know. Eventually I'd like to replace 12-volt. Oh, don't do that. So you guys are asking what... can I replace the 12-volt lead acid battery, the traditional car battery, with a lithium ion? Don't screw with the electric cars. Let Kia or Hyundai decide what batteries go in them, because there's just lots of reasons not to do that. We could talk about, I haven't understood that. What is the max kilowatt from vehicle to load outlet to appliance? I have to look that one up as well. I will say though, we are under the impression now, and I'm trying to figure this out for sure, you can buy the vehicle to load cord, and it only comes on higher vehicles. And what that is on this car, you can take the charge port over here. I don't know if it'll open for me because I don't think I have the key. No, the key's in the car. Let's see if I can open the charge port. I don't think I can. We'll find out. Yep, we can't. Okay, so on this car, when you open the charge port, you can plug it in to charge, but you can also have an adapter that plugs in and can power things off the car. It is quite a bit of kilowatts of power, like a lot. You're not going to power every possible thing in your house, but you can power quite a bit. I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but it's over 1,000 kilowatts or something like that. It's quite a bit. So you can power quite a bit with it. And that cord looks like it can be bought as an accessory from what I understand. And I believe this car has the software. So I haven't been able to confirm that yet, but everything I can tell says this car should have the software. You just need to buy that accessory cord if you want to power things off that vehicle. Okay, is it going to be an update that allows the battery to be preheated before you can get to a charge point? I don't know for sure about that, but this vehicle I think will be available with some software updates over the air, so we can talk about 3.6 kilowatts. There we go. In Europe, they're saying it's a 3.6 kilowatts. That's consistent with what I've seen. So that's 3,600 watts. That's a pretty significant load off of that, so that's pretty cool. Hello from Holland, liked your channel. My mom's from Holland, and my uncle has the same first name as you. All right, got to throw out the if you're not Dutch, if you're not much comments. And I'm not really that Dutch, but my mom is from Holland. Okay. Somebody says they'll be pushing out something that will precondition the battery. I just can't comment on that until I know for sure. So yeah, you guys are saying 3.6, so that does sound consistent. A lot of you are commenting 3.6 kilowatts for that vehicle to load power. Any other wheels available? Yes, the one other wheel available in Canada on the higher trims. I'm just skimming through. If I missed your comment, I do apologize. Have you been able to confirm 18-inch winter wheel fit and options? I haven't been able to confirm if 18-inch wheels can come on, only because I haven't asked yet. Just by glancing at it, you maybe, right? Like I can see some clearance here. I think 18s might fit. If you do go with a winter tire, this is the same size winter tire as on like a Santa Fe. So you can get lots of options for tire. 19s for sure will work, obviously, because this is a 19. I haven't checked with 18. I can find that out for you in the next video. And you guys, to be really honest, this is part of why I do the video. Somebody criticized me the other day, and they're like, don't read questions you don't know answers to. And I was like, first of all, it's my channel. I'll do what I want. But I like when you guys ask questions that I don't know, because it just tells me the things that I need to know. The winter tire size is obviously something that I need to look into, because I think that matters. Some people want to downsize to save some money on winter rubber. If you can, I'll try to find out for you. There we go. Tell the bumpkins and management to bring the panel roof option on all trims. Just so we're clear, the bumpkins in management, they price this car, they bring it all, the pan roof might be desirable on all trims, but keep in mind, there might be trying to hit different price points, and if they're only gonna have a certain number of cars available every year, and they're gonna sell out anyways, making the vehicle more desirable just makes it harder to get. So I'm with you, they will do a lot of things when these cars can be, mass produced. Every vehicle right now we sell is pretty much a wait list only vehicle. So adding things that make them more desirable doesn't always have a benefit. Moving people to a more expensive vehicle for the company probably has a benefit, right? All right. I love that we just had an ancestry.com moment. Oh, okay, yeah, sorry about that. You know, half Dutch. What is the delivery like for a midterm Ioniq 5? So what I think we meant is mid-trim. The rear-wheel drives are going to be more available than the all-wheel drives. All-wheel drives are going to take longer. There's some things, I haven't got my sheet in front of me, but yeah, if you are fine with the rear-wheel drive, that's going to be a more quicker to get one. I have seen a lot of these preferred all-wheel drive long-range vehicles coming through Brantford Hyundai as I get my vehicles from there. So obviously that was available earliest, but I'm not sure off the top of my head what they are. We can connect with our sales team for that. Okay, I think we're going to leave it there, guys. Lots of questions there. There's 200 plus people on right now. So do me a favor, guys. If you just like that we do these videos, hit the like button. If you want to see more, here's how this works. If you guys overly like this video, I get to spend more time with this car, right? They want to feed you guys. So go ahead, hit the like button if you want me to do more. Obviously, we're going to do more, but we're going to wrap it up here. Tomorrow, we're back to Kia and then back to Hyundai. We've got a bunch of new EVs coming in, including the Kia Soul EV coming in very soon. So we'll compare that. I want to compare the Kia or the Hyundai Kona to this vehicle as well. So we'll be doing that in the future. So lots more videos coming here with this vehicle, PHEVs. As you guys know, I'm a big EV fan. I just haven't spent the time with this Ioniq. The problem with all these Ioniq 5s is they just disappear like that. The one that we have at Brantford Hyundai that I can borrow has been test driven a whole bunch because lots of people want to spend the time with that car as well. So I can't always steal it when I want to, but I'll do my best. So there we go. Do I know pricing for EV6? I don't know yet. When we have it, I'll do a video, I promise. And yeah, no pricing for EV6 in Canada yet. It's the second I have pricing for EV6, I'm going to review it with our team, and we'll be live within a half an hour of having that available to us. So don't worry, we'll do a video here on that as well. So I want to thank everyone for joining us. It's been fun. Hopefully you found this at least a little bit informative. I don't do entertaining, but I hopefully do informative. So thanks guys for watching us. We'll see you again in the next one.